Speaking of international stars, Bill Simmons and Max Kellerman had did a sit-down where a real uncomfortable conversation for some came up, which is Jokic entering that top 10 list. Keep in mind, even though he did win back-to-back MVPs in the 2021 season and also in 2022, while he shot a career-high 62% from the field while almost averaging a triple-double. He eventually went on the following season to win his third MVP award, but in 2025 he put up even better numbers in a very close race with SGA. And now in 2026 he's still putting up the same numbers but even better shooting percentages from the field. So as of right now, we're talking about almost 6 seasons in of him just putting unbelievable numbers up. And now the interesting conversation came up whether a player with one championship could be placed in the top 10. That's where things nowadays get kind of tricky, because with the media landscape and the way it is, guys are going to have to combine their on-court success with a few media allies to propagate their legacies to the masses just to uphold it, especially the international players, as the media, they kind of have a slight bias against them. The goalpost sometimes it gets moved over, or whatever achievements that they have made. If it was an American player doing the same thing, we wouldn't stop hearing about it. But the fellas touch base on it, and I gotta say, Max Kellerman, he loves these imaginary GOAT conversations, but every once in a while, there's some great nuances that come from it. You guys check it out, and every once in a while, I'll check in.
So I'd have Wilt 5, you have Bird and Magic right after that. Fine, whatever. So you think Duncan is right after Bird and Magic?
I do. And guess what? I think Jokic is coming. But yeah, I don't think it can only be with one title.
Agreed.
Because now we're in the titles. I don't love the ring culture, but it's really tough to put a one title guy in like the top 8 of all time. But I said this last month to Legler. I think he's the best offensive player I've ever seen. I wasn't there for Wilt, but of anyone I've watched in my lifetime, Jordan was the best player I've ever seen.
He was the best. He was a better offensive player too, Bill. Like,
I don't know.
Like,
Jokic,
you can't.
The thing about Jokic, he gets his points in the flow of the game a lot different, and it also involves his teammates organically. Just some of the games he's having this season where he's getting over 35 points in a game and he's shooting 80% from the field. He has multiple games this season like that.
Yes, of course, Jokic is going to shoot better because in this era, you're going to take those shots
I'm
so
saying
much
he does
more.
everything he does. It doesn't matter who's on his team. He is just, his team is going to score points. He will figure out, what do we need today? I'll do that. And he's just going to, I've just never seen a guy like him in person. I was there for the entire Jordan thing and saw great Jordan games.
You think Jokic is as good offensively as Larry Bird? For his, you have to say his era because, of course, the skills improve.
And as you know, Larry Bird is my favorite player of all time.
Sure.
And my sports hero. I think he was a better offensive player. But because of the size is what makes it different.
Now, even though Bill right here has a little bias since he's a Boston Celtics fan, he is right. The size is the difference, but the passing ability is very similar. And keep in mind, Larry Bird is a player, when he joined his team, they won 61 games that season versus the 29 the year prior. So the impact on winning is very apparent, and the same thing would apply to Jokic. That's why he's really cooking up no matter who's out there on the court with him. He was still able to take the Thunder into a 7-game series, even though his team really didn't have a deep bench to go to.
Like, okay, in an absolute sense, all the athletes are always getting better because they're building on what came before them, right?
True.
Okay. So the 10th best sprinter in the world today is much, much better than Jesse Owens.
Yeah.
But that's a ridiculous statement to make because they're two different eras. Who's the greater, right?
This is the Bob Cousy argument.
Sure.
This is why I get mad when Cousy just gets cut out because it's like, oh, he played a million years ago. It's like, well,
at that time,
he was the most important basketball player we had until Russell showed up. And he was the best guard of the first 15 years of the league. Like, that has to matter a little bit.
Absolutely. And I would say that Jokic in his day, as great as he is, I'll take Larry Bird in his day. Larry Bird.
It's a good argument because Larry had 3 straight MVPs and then 87 was his best season.
I remember as a kid, and my dad loved Larry Bird, which killed me as a Knicks fan because he said the Celtics play, the way they played reminded him of the Knicks championship teams, like the unselfish way they played. But I was like, all I knew was Boston Celtics, Larry Bird.
Yeah.
Get out of here with that, Dad, right? But inside, I remember thinking, I'm a little kid, I'm thinking, I'll never see anybody this good again. Like the whole thing with Bird and Magic came because Magic was able to adapt and he played longer and he had this weird prime that just kept going even as he kind of adjusted as a player.
In 90-91. That's what Bird really only had the 9 years and then his body started to break down. Magic had like 11.
When they were both at their best head
Bird
to head.
was slightly better.
I would say Bird's IQ and just being able to perform in the clutch is really high. And that's where a lot of the stats won't show you when, they do these imaginary debates on who's the GOAT. And sometimes they overlook Larry Bird when it comes to small forwards, which sounds crazy, but that's some of the trickle-down effects from that sports debate culture from First Take. There's a lot more nuances to the game than just stats.
Really debated. In fact, like the guy who Larry was compared to early, it's a little revisionist history now because it's perfect with the college stuff and everything, was Dr. J commercially.
Right.
But
you have that behind you over your right shoulder. The Bird versus Dr. J.
Right. Yeah, the Converse ads or
no,
whatever.
That was Philly was their rival. It was funny because the Lakers, they played them in the finals those 3 times, but Philly was the hump to get over year after year.
Dude.
Yeah.
But at any rate.
He's another one who slipped through the cracks of history now.
And that's the thing about the players of the past. The media side of the game is something that they would now have to play in order to uphold their image and just kind of propagate it to the masses. Just imagine if the more modern day reporters or just on-air personalities like Stephen A. Smith, Skip Bayless, Shannon Sharp, if they had a great relationship with these guys, when they have these GOAT debates, they would just toss their names in there. And that idea would sort of be implemented in the audience's subconscious that, this player does belong in a certain tier. And we don't see that from the players of the past. That's where Michael Jordan and LeBron, they have mastered the media side of what I like to call the GOAT game, a perfect synergy of just on-court success and also having certain plants within the media to uphold your image as time goes on and the newer generations come in and they sort of don't even consider you to a degree.
Yeah, because the ABA, but in the ABA, he was God.
I would say the first 6-7 years of NBA in person, he was unbelievable to see in person with like his fucking Freddy Krueger going into the lane with one arm, all that shit.
But Bird
nobody
and Magic
was like
were
that.
like
they were different.
They were different.
So that's why I think Jokic is in that conversation with them because of what he does. He can completely change the identity of guys who, if they didn't play with him, would have had completely different careers.
Look at Russell Westbrook when he went to Denver after that whole Lakers fiasco. Jokic, in a way, sort of revived his image after Jamal Murray kind of started off the season with an injury. That's what great players do.
And that's a different list.
The first time he had a shot at it, he has, if there's a guard on your team who's a B+, but in the playoffs, he becomes an A+.
Yeah.
And I know Jokic wasn't quite in his prime yet, but you can't rise to that same level in that series. That's like LeBron against Dallas.
But he loses two Murray playoff years because Murray gets hurt right before the playoffs.
And as soon as he had a shot, and they get Aaron Gordon, they get the right kind of third guy. And
honestly, last year what he did against OKC was pretty amazing, just to even drag that series to 7 games.
Facts. That does not get talked about enough. The fact that the Thunder had that deep team, and it was really just Jokic out there sort of uplifting the Nuggets and just keeping them in that series. It really shows you how great of a player that he is. And just to flash back in that bubble series against the Clippers, where the Nuggets came back from being down 3-1 against Kawhi and Paul George, that was the rest of the league's warning that Jokic was on his way. At the time, I did put out a video acknowledging this. I'll link in the description below. But yeah, some of the things that he was doing on the court was undeniable. And a few seasons later, Paul George had also alluded that they continuously had no answer for Jokic.
Gordon had a big piece of that too. But
he's an incredible player, but I'm Jokic. But I'm with you. He's a guy who, like, one championship would make is like Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers just winning one Super Bowl it ain't going to cut it in the all-time arguments because his talent suggests, like, wait, you're with Drew Brees and them? You're so much better than those guys, right?
It's true. But this is why Curry's 22 is so important.
So important because that's the first time he was the best player on either team in a championship.
He pulled ever up. There's no way they win unless he goes.
I would say the same thing for Kobe Bryant's 2010 championship against the Boston Celtics. That one right there was probably more important than all the other championships he's won combined. He fully solidified himself against a very, very difficult team.
Put Curry in the top 10 ever conversation, regardless of position.
So the thing with Jokic and Duncan and Bird and Magic is I think it's actually impossible not to win 50 games if you had those guys in their peak.
Yep.
And this is the part that thinks Kobe, who I've kind of come around, especially when I wrote my book versus what the 09-10 was so important for him, those last two titles. But those middle 3 years in the Lakers when it was like, all right, dude, now you have to carry us. The team's not that good. And they just weren't. Even in 06, like when he drags them to 45 wins, there's no 45-win Tim Duncan season.
So
this right here is really interesting because not every superstar is easy to build around. Certain guys need the perfect concoction or something close to it. A player like Tim Duncan is very similar to Jokic. You can put a certain cast of guys around him and it could work. I would say the same thing for Kevin Durant in his prime, a player like Patrick Ewing. There's certain stars where you don't have to put that much around them for them to cook. Michael Jordan is another person I would add on to that list. In his final season, The Last Dance, without Scottie Pippen, that team was on a roll. And let me add on this. When it comes to Luka, I don't want to say it's very similar to Kobe, but you do have to have a certain roster around him, especially when it comes to the lack of defense in the backcourt. Not all stars are created equal. Ja Morant, Zion Williams, that's another two that's more recent, and these guys are hard to build around.
So there are different ways to look at this. If I have nothing, I have garbage on my team, and I want to get my team as close as possible to winning a championship, LeBron James is the answer to that, right?
I would throw Jokic in there too, though.
Okay, but
Jokic had that year after Murray. Before I can't remember if Aaron Gordon was on there or not, but you go back and you look at the roster he had.
Yeah, not
it's
good.
Like, how is this a playoff contender?
You can take it. My pick all time would be LeBron. If you have something,
I think that's fair.
If you have something on your team, my pick is Michael Jordan. Because every time Michael Jordan ever played with one other All-Star, except for when he came back for 20-something games, he won. He never didn't win the championship in under 7 games.
I mean, he almost won in 90 before Pippen was Pippen.
I mean, he was on a nice regular season run without Scottie Pippen during the Last Dance season. That's why Scottie rushed to get back. MJ and the Bulls was kind of proving that we don't really need you.
By the way, and then they go to 7 games against the defending back-to-back champions.
Pippen gets a
migraine, and they still like otherwise maybe he wins, right? The point is with Kobe, not that. So he's more like Jordan. Give Kobe something to work with, and he's going to take you as far as you can go.
I still feel like there was some behind-the-scenes stuff with him that had to sort itself out over the years with his personality, and there was too much written about what a tough teammate he was.
This right here is another factor that kind of gives the international guys more of an edge because they are more coachable. And when everyone makes these GOAT lists or just the all GOAT team, which team is better? I could build a better GOAT team than you. They never factor in the personality, the chemistry fit, the spacing. Does this lineup even make sense? Like, for an example, a team with Allen Iverson, Kobe, and LeBron on it, if you were just making an all GOAT team, if they were to play on the court, the chemistry would not be quite a good fit. These type of scenarios is exactly what's missing from these type of conversations. There's more nuance to the game than just, oh, this person is a GOAT because look at their numbers. A prime example is Draymond Green's impact. 20 years from now, there'll be some kid just pointing to his stats saying this guy is nothing, but not understanding the nuance that he brought that made Golden State Golden State.
It's the hardest thing to put into context with his career because his own coach was writing books about how impossible he was to coach, right? And then they hashed it out and they really figured out an unbelievable relationship over the second part of it, but that's still, you have to look at the first half of his career. You have to count that in at least a little bit.
Have there ever been two superstars where they're among the greatest players in the history of American team sports, both, and one of them was such a close replica of the other? Kobe is in terms of his size, his position, his game, his accomplishments, how effective he was.
Well, he also studied Jordan and actually tried to emulate him.
6'6" and play shooting guard and have the same coach and everything. But you have the greatest play. I think Michael Jordan, to me, is clearly and by far the greatest athlete who ever lived. Like, in his sport, the greatest athlete who ever lived. Everyone wanted to be like Mike, right? There were commercials. No one, like the next guy who came into the conversation who actually made it an argument had to do something different. It was LeBron, right?
Yeah.
He's like kind of the first postmodern player where he's like, I'm Magic and Michael. Kobe was
the Dr. J.
Yeah. Kobe was was the only guy really with the guts to say, I'm going to, people misuse the word emulate all the time, right? They think it means imitate, but really it means imitate in a way that surpasses.
Yeah.
You're trying to surpass the original. Kobe had the guts to try to do the same thing the greatest of all time did, better than the greatest of all time did it. I don't think he got there, but he was basically Michael Jordan. He was like Michael Jordan minus a hair.
Hey, speaking of hair, Kobe Bryant imitated Michael Jordan so bad that he grew his hair out to kind of deflect that narrative.
Like Michael Jordan minus a hair, right? But damn, that's good. That's so good.
Well, and then he used some of the career advantages that his era had to try to beat him, which is what LeBron's doing too. Like Jordan basically, comes in 3 years in college. Age 35 is like 42 now.
Yep.
That's when he won the 98 title, right? It's like, oh my God, he's 35. And now, he can play 20 years. And that's why, like, even you look at the football, like why Rodgers, who seemed like he was done last year, it's like, maybe he's not done. Like, who knows with all the shit we have. And now you watch him like, oh yeah, he's done.
Yeah, he's not. He
but you
hasn't
have to at least keep the door open for him not being done.
Guys are definitely playing a lot longer. And it shows you how great Kevin Durant truly is. The fact that he's all the way up there in the all-time scoring list, and he's missed about 2.5 seasons of his prime. But it is what it is. When it comes to Jokic, I got to say, since 2020, that little stretch until now is quite the feat. And had he been an American-born player, they would be making a huge ordeal out of just his numbers, the way he gets his teammates involved, the way every single season, I would say around December, January, he's either leading the league in multiple major categories like points, rebounds, assists. Just imagine if LeBron was doing all this. We would not hear the end of it. But hey, if he gets another title or two, the only thing that's going to leave him out of the top 10 is just not having enough media members to kind of propagate that image. The same way Tim Duncan and just other stars of the past that don't really have that brand recognition. And it's unfortunate. I'll put Kareem also in that boat. No one really cared about the all-time leading scorer until LeBron had broke that record. Now all of a sudden it's used as an accolade when it comes to comparing GOATs. I gotta say, Max Kellerman, he loves these imaginary GOAT conversations, but sometimes there is a little bit of nuance that is worth diving into.